MTN SME Hub. Link to growth, link to success, link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. And in studio with us, we've got a very interesting, I find a very sexy business, Vitamin Club. The co-founder and CEO is Peter Aling. And we've been talking about how he and his co-founders have built this business and the issues they've had in terms of growing it. And now we're talking about the question really is how do we find new markets? I asked you the question, Peter, about what's your value proposition in one sentence. And I said not two sentences, one sentence. And you went to what it says on your box here, but it doesn't. Okay, your daily dose of health and vitality delivered to your door. But that's what it is. It's not the value proposition. The convenience to me is the value proposition. Maybe a little bit of curation on your behalf. So it comes down to convenience. To me, and you don't have to, at two levels. Number one, it arrives at your door every month. I don't have to reorder it. It just carries on. And you've taken the risk out of it by allowing to pause for 2 weeks. So I get that. But, and then of course that you package it in the right way. So it's accurate and accuracy and convenience would be the two value propositions that I'd pick up so far from this. So to me, the whole thinking right now is in terms of your marketing, those are the two things that you have to belabor or get across is that convenience. Whether you do that in a comical way or a serious way, you need to find a way to, in your messaging, not to be maybe too fuddy-duddy about it. I don't know what your advertising is like, but if you've got one genre, the whole idea is to change a genre. And then, as much as you're experimenting with visuals and copy, you need to be thinking about different genres of communicating, comedy, serious, authority, whatever the case may be, to see what sticks in which markets and be very, very cerebral around that. In other words, you're analyzing, when we sent out that funny thing, this is the kind of clients we got back and they lasted for this long. When we had somebody in a lab coat, talking about it, who was an influencer, we got this many, and this is how long they lasted. So it's very much now in the second year of your operations, you're still, feeling around to get that. So I want to normalize where you are and say, it's okay. Okay, I know maybe financially it might not feel that way right now, but it's okay. But it's more around that you experiment both in different ways, in a more three-dimensional way. Then the second thing that I want to talk about is the channel development, is to think about, when I asked you what's your route to market, you've spoken about two things. It's your social media and your influencers, and they're also on social media. So to me, it's around a channel agreement. So what does, for example, a channel agreement look like with a corporate? Okay, so if all your people in your corporate got their vitamins arriving once a month, and they're going to be healthier, your productivity is going to be better, your sick days are going to be less, and I'm going to take that all away from you. But there's one buyer, which is the corporate. I mean, that's the deal that you want to get. So that needs to be a new market segment that you would look at to me and say, what is the value proposition to a corporate would be lower sick days, higher productivity, employee value proposition, EVP. That would be the value proposition to a corporate, which is different to the user, which is convenience, etc. And now you go into, well, now we have to build that out. So how much of my time do I spend knocking on doors to the corporate? The same thing maybe to gyms, right? And this is a different way of thinking. And I obviously haven't spent enough time with you, but to me, I would at least think this through. So let me give you another example in a different industry, and then try and bring it back to your industry. So when the cell phone industry started, the whole idea was that the resellers of those SIM cards would get an ongoing annuity coming from the resale of those SIM cards, because it was a a game to see who could dominate as much of the market as possible. It's a market domination. So you had 2 or 3 players running to suck up the whole market. So it was about speed. Okay, things changed subsequently. But so how does that model apply in your industry? In other words, and I'm going to use an example, there's not enough thinking behind it, but if you had a gym group, say for every subscription, because you've got annuity in subscription, for every subscription you buy, we will give you ongoing a piece of the revenue for as long as it's alive. Okay, now it's not just about the sale, but there's a long tail to them and a motive for them to resell. So that's another channel that you can look at. So you've got corporate, you've got now this reseller with an annuity in it that you would price it accordingly and you would put it into those chains. And I just want to, in the last a few minutes, just talk about where you're at, because I think, and maybe this is to anyone who finds himself in this position as well. So you're 2 years in, you have this big up, everyone's excited, lots of champagne being popped, everyone's like, I'm going to be the next South African billionaire, and then reality hits, the market goes down, you rejig, you're redoing what you have to do, bring marketing in-house, and now you're going for another up. You're going to hit another down again, okay? So that's just to you're going to go through this roller coaster doesn't end with an answer from today. It's this constant iteration of finding new markets, new products, etc. But I wrote here that it might be the fact that you've the slow growth is often your lifesaver. So I see too often with businesses that go through that stage that grow too quickly, too fast, too early, without the maturity around that business understanding. They implode literally like months after their big growth. So I want you to reframe your slow growth, your frustration as a good thing, because you're far more thoughtful now than had you been running around trying to source cheaper boxes and better printing and like, how do we get this many bottles? And those supply issues, when you're in a high growth, you've got all these supply issues. But the real issue to deal with in the long term is a demand issue. And now you're being forced to be very thoughtful around that. And so that's a good thing. So, Peter, to me, if I were a doctor, I'd say you're in good shape. You're where you need to be right now. It might not feel like that way, but you're where you need to be, and you are blessed to be in this position in the sense that you're going to get the things in place to put the right foundation for long-term growth, as opposed to if you just shut up in that and went to 5,000 to 10,000 to 15 to 20, and your systems weren't there, it will all implode. And we'd be having a different conversation on the Big Small Business Show. So I hope that gave you food for thought.
Very much so, thank you.
Okay, and I hope that gave you food for thought. And do remember, if you think it, write it down and make it a reality.
The Big Small Business Show, proudly sponsored by MTN Business.